one of the consultants from the State Library of Iowa, and she said that information for boards is key in a decision like this. So I am giving you information, hopefully just general information that you might need. I know if you read the information that I sent out today, it did say that information is important, so that's what we're going to use, a little education information. In the Board of Trustee job description, it says that you will advocate and defend intellectual freedom, an individual's right to any and all information, and affirm support of the American Library Association's Freedom to Read Statement and Library Bill of Rights. So that's what's in the job description. Then, this is so much print. We put the whole Library Bill of Rights on there, but the first three are probably of most interest today. Books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people of the community that the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of the origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. Libraries should provide materials and information presenting all points of view on current and historical issues. Materials should not be prescribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. And the last one I think really applies here is libraries should challenge censorship in the fulfillment of their responsibility to provide information and enlightenment, which is kind of exactly what we've said before. This section right here highlighted is pulled out of the Freedom to Read Act. Publishers, librarians, and booksellers do not need to endorse every idea or presentation they make available. It would conflict with the public interest for them to establish their own political, moral, or aesthetic views as a standard for determining what should be published or circulated. This quote comes out of the Library Trustee Handbook. It's put out by the state of Iowa, not affiliated at all with ALA. And it reminds you, they mention the ALA in here, but it reminds you that the board has established a collection development policy and library resources are purchased which respond to community needs. Trustee advocates must recognize a sacrosanct responsibility to permit people access to those materials. So that was something that she brought to my attention when we met. There's a public library trustee ethics statement that's in the back of the Iowa Trustees Handbook. In there it says trustees shall respect the opinions of their colleagues and not be critical or disrespectful when they disagree or oppose a viewpoint different than their own. Trustees must distinguish clearly in their actions and statements between their personal philosophies and attitudes and those of the library, acknowledging and supporting the formal position of the board even if they disagree. Trustees must respect the confidential nature of library business and not disclose such information to anyone. Trustees must also be aware of and in compliance with the Freedom of Information laws. I think that the part in there about not disclosing anything is really important when we get a book challenge like this or a book reconsideration. It's not our job to spread around, like I've told you before, who turned that in. It's just important that it was turned in and for us to look at it that way. So I wanted to put that in there again. Also, that trustees shall support the efforts of librarians in resisting censorship of library materials by groups or individuals. These are some things she mentioned to us in our meeting, and I thought we'll just throw them on here, have them out in front of you. When something like a book challenge comes up, patrons and board review the reconsideration form in accordance with our collection development policy. So we need to have a balanced collection. Sometimes there are going to be books that are against your beliefs. Sometimes there will be books that can offend you, but we need to respect various sides of an issue and various sides of a challenge. And then the last one is taking a book out of the collection opens up the door to the possibility of someone removing a book that you want, which we talked about last time. What happens when the tables are turned? I used to think 20 years ago, oh, that won't happen. Now I'm scared for that day. Here's our collection development policy. I'm sure that you all looked over that again. I want to pull out from here. I don't want to read the whole thing. The Library Board of Trustees here at the bottom believes that censorship is purely an individual matter and declares that while anyone is free to reject for himself or herself materials which they do not approve of, staff and board cannot exercise this right to censorship to restrict the freedom of another individual from reading this material. This is a quote that, while I don't love this quote, it is true that I buy books all the time that I don't agree with. But it's a public library. It's not Becky Bilby's private library, which would be a good library. But we're not that. Sometimes it bothers me. I'll just be really honest. I'm a believer, and sometimes things go against what I believe. But a public library is just that. It's for everyone. So I just left again our mission statement to keep in mind as well. So that's all I have on that